All right. So my man Johny Locus is on our episode dealing with Beyond Rhetoric. This brother is amazing to me. He is a lyricist. He is an amazing storyteller. Just listen to Johnny's Jeep someday. He is a wonderful human being. Gives so much to not only people within his circle, but in the
Mm.
wider community. But anyhow, I don't want to take up too much time introducing you because I want you to take some time out to kind of introduce yourself to our audience. For some of the people that may not know you, what are some of the things you want them to know about you?
Come on, man. What an introduction, man. I'm honored and humbled at the same time. But again, I'm Johny Locus. So a couple things about me. I'm from Washington, D.C. I'm actually from Washington, D.C. A lot of people like to say, oh, I'm from D.C. And then I say, what part? And they say Tyson's Corner. Um, so D.C. is actually broken into four quadrants: Northeast, Northwest, Southeast, Southwest. I grew up on the Northeast side of Washington, D.C. So just some pillar marks from people who may get excited. South Dakota Avenue. If you grew up around my age, you were known for the hoods you lived by. So I was right in between Michigan Park and Riggs Park. So for those who know, there you go. I grew up into music. My dad played in go-go bands. Shout out to go-go music. He played in the late 70s, all the way up to the mid 80s, until my sister was born. My mom loved to party and have fun with her cousins, so she was always at all the go-go events. So they met through that. So with her loving the party and everything, and my dad being a MC himself, out of the three kids that was born, I happened to inherit that gift. So from then on, I started writing songs, transitioned from secular music to Christian rap around 2017. I started rapping back in like 2011, officially, professionally. And right now I got two projects out. So that's a little bit about me.
Yes, sir, man. So I wanted to talk about the time that you came to the detention center, but I kind of want to lead up to it, give a little bit of a backstory. I remember when Baltimore Juvenile Detention Center had reached out to us dealing with the Beyond Rhetoric team, and they said, "Hey, we have studio equipment, and we want to have something additional for the kids to do to kind of get their minds off of being here, being locked up." And so we were like, "Yeah, we'll help put some things together." I said, "Listen, I used to DJ, so I said I could put together some of it, but I'll have to kind of enlist some help." And I know some people in my church that do sound and things like that, so I'll try to reach out to them and work some things out and see what we can do. So I came in a few times, and then one of the RAs, we would call them guards, right? But they call themselves RAs. They said, "Hey, man, I got a guy who's really good." And I was like, "For real?" He's like, "Yeah, I got a guy who's really good." I said, "Man, I know some music artists that I'm cool with." I said, "If you're serious about this guy being really good," I said, "then I'll reach out to my friends." But I said, "Only if he's really good." And so I met this young man a few times because I was doing a session called Distinguished Gentlemen, which is to mentor these young youth into becoming men. And so I had about maybe 3 or 4 sessions with him and a couple other people in his group. And one time I was sitting there with the whole group. We were talking about, I think we were talking about finances or something like that. And I said, and I knew they already talked about him. One of the RAs talking about this young man. And I said, hey guys, who's nice in here, like as a lyricist, or a singer or something like that? And they all pointed to him, you know? And so I was like, okay. I said, let me get with my man, Johnny, and see if he's able to come in. And I remember setting things up to have breakfast with you and kind of explaining the whole thing. But I wanted to ask you, what made you say yes to it?
That's a good question. In that process of time when you were asking me this, I was talking to my wife. Yes, I'm currently married, been married for 3 years. So shout out to my wife. We were talking. I was like, babe, I don't want to be the artist who waits until, you know, the success I'm looking for, what I want to find is at its peak. I want to be able to start giving now. So at the time, as I'm growing, this is already like a firsthand thing for me. Like it just becomes a reflex, like brushing your teeth. And so we already been talking about it and praying about it. So when you reached out to me about the opportunity, I was like, wow, God, that was super fast. I was not expecting you to answer that fast. So just hearing just young man, and even around the age that he was songwriting, I started around that time, and I was figuring out on my own, going on YouTube, listening to different artists, thinking about how they structure in their minds and what works for them, and even helping them dig through them. Like I would love to be that person who can help guide um, him to get to that point, or whoever I was going to meet at that time. So it was just, for me, it was like an automatic yes. And then you're a good brother anyway. So I two of the great things I said, I'm doing it. It's happening.
Oh man, appreciate it. Let me ask you this: have you ever worked with or dealt with disenfranchised youth or youth that's been incarcerated before?
No, so that was my first time. And I never, I knew a time would come, but I never knew that at this stage of my life that that would be the next chapter of my life, dealing with somebody who's incarcerated.
Wow. Hey, do you remember the day that you came?
I do. I do. I do. I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous. I was nervous. I said, okay, let me make sure I don't got nothing that may look like a weapon, smell like a weapon, breathe like a weapon. I don't want anything. I was even cautious about the pen I was bringing. I was like, okay, should I bring a pen with a top, without a top? Do I make sure it clicks? Like, what do I do? So I was really nervous about how even I was going to present myself that day.
Man, so I remember that day clearly. For those of you who are listening to this, you're not going to see some of the pictures. I'm gonna put some pictures up where we were actually in the studio in the detention center in Baltimore. So if you are following us through Apple Podcasts, you won't see it. Much love to my Apple Podcast listeners. If you're on Spotify, you'll see it. And if you go to our Beyond Rhetoric YouTube page, you'll be able to see the pictures. So jump there anyway. Jump there, listen to it twice. You know, um, and the thing that I remember the most was you were in there, and they were bringing the youth to the room, and as you were in there, you started looking at the software, and then you started working on some of the levels, and then you started making some changes. You were walking around the back, plugging some things in, unplugging some things, and I was like, "Oh wow, this guy's in engineering mode," you know? And I was like, "Huh, this is interesting." And I remember as he came in and you were talking about the sound and explaining some things, I was like, this is beyond just someone who's a lyricist. And so I was like, hey man, you've done this before? And so you had told me what you got your degree in. Could you explain
Yeah.
what you got the degree in, and why you got that degree?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got my degree in audio production at Full Sail University. Um, Funny enough, getting to that, I've always been an independent kid. So when I told myself that I was going to become an artist, I wanted to make sure that I wrapped myself around all the angles of just artistry in general. I never wanted to be limited. And the group I was in at the time, we also pushed each other to do it. We never let ourselves settle, just because a lot of the artists that were coming out were so ahead of the times of the Eminems and the Jay-Z's of the world, where they played one role first and then they adapted to everything else, where the Kendrick Lamars of the world that was coming up, A$AP Rocky, all those things, all those guys were doing like dual roles. They engineered a little bit and they record themselves. Like, so they had to be many hats to save money. And so for me, I was inspired by that, and I was like, I'm going to be more. I'm not going to just be a dual hat. I'm going to do everything. And so uh, I remember teaching myself first and going to YouTube University and just typing up YouTube. Like, okay, how do I set up a plugin? How do I level myself out? How do I do this and do that? So then there became a moment where I plateaued, and so I was like, okay, um, something's missing. I'm not getting the sound that it's like radio now. I'm getting the independent sound. It's raw, it's gritty, it sounds great, but something I'm missing something. And so I've realized that I needed to learn the language, and even come from a professional standpoint of when I am adjusting a level. that why am I adjusting that level? What am I hearing to adjust that level? So I decided to go to school for it and get that degree.
Man, and it reminds me of when you go out to dinner with somebody
Hmm.
and you go out to dinner at a restaurant that's a different language, and you're sitting there with your friend and they get ready to order for you and they order it in French, and you just like, whoa. That's what it was like when I was sitting in there. I was like, what? And just like you said, you was explaining not only, hey, we should change this level to this, but then you were saying why. Hey, do you hear this? Do you hear that? This is the feedback we're getting. Hey, this is going to make this sound this. When you're doing this with the software, you want to click this off. And I was like, okay, okay, man. And so that was really cool. So I wanted to go into when you guys were in the room together.
Yeah.
Uh, I remember him playing a song for you, and then him starting to get his mind going, and you gave him the pen and the pad, and he started to put down some of his lyrics and all that, and then you were like, okay, go ahead, and then you heard him for the first time, and it was so amazing watching you, because man, it was no judgment in what he was saying. The way you came off, it was like you were his big brother, you know, because he felt so comfortable so quickly. um, the thing I remember about what you shared back with him was you was teaching him song structure. So you were saying, "Hey, I like that you have these ideas right here, right?" He was like, "But what if you took this line right here and then you elaborated on it? Then you make this a part of the next like section of the song after your bridge. Then you elaborate on that." And he was like, "Oh," and then he went back and started rewriting. Do you remember the vibe that you had with him?
Yeah, absolutely. I One thing I liked about that young man is his mind worked fast.
Mhm.
So it was easier to jump in and be like, "Oh, I know exactly what you need," because he was somebody who he know what he wanted to talk about. He know how he wanted to say everything. But I could tell that he was going to get stuck soon just because his mind worked so fast. And the reason why that was so cool is because I am that person still to this day where I overly write so fast, and I have to stop myself to calm down and go, okay, let me take this out, restructure the first verse, get into that so that it blends well and there's a full song. And so his vibe was very much like I want to say everything, and it was great. But I just wanted him just to tweak the storyline because the kid is talented. I was just so amazed about how fast he had the story and even telling me why he wrote that story that way because his thought process was when I get out, this is the steps I'm going to take to be this man that I'm writing about. And I was just so blown away because, again, never working with anybody incarcerated. I don't know what you're thinking, right? Like, some may want to get out, some may be comfortable and be like, I never want to get out. I love this life. So I was still not sure. So I came out as he was writing. I was like, I want to have an open heart and an open mind, so that way, as we're building this song out, it can grow.
So I remember he wanted to play you another song like right before our time was up. Do you remember that situation?
Absolutely. So I believe he wanted to play that song because there was a level of trust we were building. And in that trust, what happens with artists is once we feel comfortable with you, whether we're writing a song or whether we have established some relationship based on the type of music we listen to, there's an open door. So I even remember him saying, "Hey, I want to show you a song," and for him to vulnerably say, "This is not my best song," let me know that wow, like we have now built a rapport where we can communicate. Like there's no more boundaries in between us because now we're in a space where we can talk fully about what we feel as artists in our artistry.
Man, it was so cool because I I was like, this is leading to, you know, another chapter, right? This is
Yeah.
leading to a follow-on situation.
Yeah.
And for the audience, man, I wish we could tell you this had a happy ending. Man, I wish.
Yeah.
So the plan was I was already going to start working with his case manager, because we were hoping that he was going to get on probation. Even when he was telling us, he was like, "Yo, my probation thing comes up in 2 weeks."
Yeah, he
Once
did.
that happens, Johnny, I'm planning on getting with you. And I was like, yep, I'll get everything set up. We'll start working things once you get on the outside. And I got in contact with his case manager again once I didn't hear from him after like a week and a half. And they were like, hey, there's some things going on. We'll touch base with you in another week. And I was like, okay, no problem. And then I worked through the volunteer coordinator and talked to the case manager again. And that's when they let me know that it was like, hey, his situation has gone the opposite way. So
Yeah,
he's going to an adult jail. He's going to be doing some serious time. And I was like, oh. So
yeah,
it was such a gut punch. Do you remember when I called you and told you about that?
yeah. I was driving actually, uh,
Mm,
and I remember when you broke me the news, my face fell. For a minute, I forgot I was driving. I had to lift back up, but it was just so heartbreaking because we had built a connection. And this is not even me just saying that, oh, because I volunteered for somebody who was incarcerated. But again, just that bond we created through music, I already was like, okay, this is going to develop to a little brother, big brother situation. Like, my hope is to eventually be so much of an influence on him that it may even bring him to Christ. Like, I had so many hopes and wishes, and I was going to start doing like a whole prayer list thing for him and everything. And it just happened so fast. I was like, man, I was just in there with him. Um, and for a while I started questioning myself, and I think that's just a normal human thing, right? Like when somebody dies or something happens, it was like, was it me? Was I the problem? Is it because I gave him that journal? Is it because? But I had to realize that I am not in control of his life, and all I can do is just try my best to inspire. And so that
mm.
was just such a gut punch.
Yeah, we just plant the seeds, and I'm hoping that the time that we spent with him, and even those who were hearers around him, uh, he got something from it, or the people that were
Yeah,
around got something from it, and
yeah.
maybe it'll come to fruition another day. But I will say this: I mentor another young man. No, he's not an artist. he, he,
I got excited.
he's
You saw the
he's not an
eyebrows raised.
artist.
You saw the eyebrows raised. I was like, where we going with this?
So what I will say is, uh, I come and meet with him on Saturdays, and I play checkers with him. Tried to play chess a couple times, he don't like it, but I play checkers with him. And the last time I went to go see him before I went on vacation, he had said, "Hey, I can only talk to you for a second. I'm getting ready to go into the studio." And I was like, "Oh, that's so cool that
Wow.
some of the things that we did is still living on." And it was
Yeah.
about 5 youth that went in there. I know some of them, and they're just going in there to have a good time.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just
Yeah. Yeah.
they just
Yeah.
going there to do something different. But I still keep my ears open for the next artist, and still keeping my ears open for that young man. Still trying to work through his case manager. It's trying to get him letters. Anyway, I won't go into the whole Department of Juvenile and Department of
Yeah.
Adult Services
For
in Maryland.
for
It
sure.
could be a whole nother episode,
Yeah.
but still trying to keep that spark. But just to transition, one of the things I wanted to ask you was, is there anything that you got that's going on that you're pushing or that you're promoting as we're starting to wrap up the show, that you want to get out there to people in the audience about yourself or whatever you have going on? Want to make
Ab-
sure I make this time for you.
Absolutely. So recently, I just released an album called The Inevitable. I released that March 22nd in 2025. And the reason why I called it the inevitable, because we deal with inevitability, everything, things that we just can't avoid. And I think even as a Christian, sometimes um, for myself, I say, "Oh, I surrender this to God because I don't want to take the responsibility for it." And then I just feel like God shoots it right back. I'm like, "No, no, you gotta. In order for this to be surrendered to me, you need to face and take responsibility for the actions of your past or what I'm doing now." But it's just so easy to be like, well, God, I surrendered it to you. So let's just move on. He's like, well, actually, you haven't, because it's bothering you even with you saying that. So there's a level of you have to turn to face and take responsibility for life in general, your decisions, what you've done in the past, your marriage, if you're married, a relationship, friendships, um, your colleagues, your career. There's just so many things that you have to take care of. I mean, your home. There's a responsibility in that. And so I talk through that through different songs where just discussing like the realness of what it's like being a human being first, and then secondly being a Christian. And so I've built this project to balance in between some relatability, no matter where you are, or whether you're religious or not, or have a relationship with God or not. There's still something that you can get out of it that'll help you kind of walk through and see, be like, okay, even though this album may not give me the answers that I want, but at least I know somebody else is walking the same walk as me. Because the reality is, as human beings, we want relatability, and when we feel that loneliness, it's because it's like, okay, I'm going through something that nobody else is pinpointing. Why is that? Like, there's got to be somebody in this world who's feeling what I'm feeling, and so that was the hope for that album. And so I'm hoping that for all the viewers who are watching this, whether you already follow me or if you haven't followed me or heard from me, I would love for you to check it out. It's available on all platforms. So if you got Spotify, yes. Apple Music, yes. Tidal, yes. What is it? Amazon Music, yes. YouTube Music, yes. TikTok Music, yes. Whatever you want is there.
All right. And you know what I'll do is I'll add it in the show notes as
Absolutely.
well. So one of the things that we do on the show is at the end, we always ask our guests, is there a book that you just finished reading or that you're currently reading? Is there a show that you've been watching or binging, a movie you
Mm-hmm.
just saw, any one of those three that you want to share with the audience so they get to know you just a little bit better?
Yeah. So, the man, I would say the last thing I watched. So I am a anime nerd. Um, for those who don't know what anime is, it's Japanese cartoons. And so for most who grew up, Japanese cartoons started slowly transitioning in the late 80s to on now. It's like the biggest thing. It's even crazy. I won't even try to get through too much, but I remember running in school because it's like, why are you watching that Japanese anime stuff? And now we're in this case where you could be any age watching it, nobody bothers you. Anyways, so there's a TV show I watch. It's called Solo Leveling. And that's probably one of the most popular animes. But what it is this young boy. He lives in a world where there's a balance between humans eventually get powers, and your power, depending on where your power is and how it, the more you grow, the more the power levels up in you, and how you mature as a human, the more that power base increases. Well, even as he grows, his never increases. So he's an E rank compared to the D, C, B, A, and then the F ranks, which is like the top of top. And so he's an E rank, and on one of the missions, he ends up dying, but he gets reincarnated based on a game. And so he's trying to figure out how he got reincarnated. But as he's growing, he can see a screen of like what level he's on, what items he carries with him, anything, just like playing a physical game. Uh, so he's growing, and he's growing at an exponential rate because everybody else, their powers grow based on the mission they go on, and it takes a little time, and then based on how their body grows. Where he's just basically leveling up depending on the system. So if he kills a goblin and a fox, it says, okay, you've reached level 5, and you've also gained this ability now. So he now, within like 2 months, he's the strongest person in the whole land. Like, the government begs him to work for him, and he won't do it. He'll just show up. And so the key factor of it, what I love about animes is, for me, I'm always a person who tries to look deeper into it. Like, okay, why is that? There's sometimes I watch it for fun, but just me being who I am as an artist, I always look deeper into it. And so the message I realize is never overlook your potential.
Mm.
And I think for him, he overlooked it for so long because he's like, I'm little, I'm weak, things happen. And I know he dies and he gets reincarnated. So it's a little different from how we are. But I think even as a Christian for myself, I had potential in being a soldier for Christ than being in the world. And so my reincarnation was, you know, realizing Jesus was real,
Hmm.
understanding that he died for my sins, knowing that I have to turn from my sin to Christ and what Christ believes is sin and what is true, and then being baptized into him. And so that was my reincarnation. And now my eyes are wide open, and the shell has fallen off my eyes of the things I thought I knew. And so now I've leveled up, right, in a way
Mhm.
where I've leveled up with God to a point where people come to me like, you seem different. Or something
Mhm.
about you is weird. Like, you seem brighter. Like people who've known me in the past, and I will share with them it's because I have a relationship with God. And so that's the most recent thing I watched, and kind of I implemented that, and I thought to myself, like, man, I've changed so much, just like he did. I've changed so much, and I have leveled up so much that there's even some things I may watch or say where I'm like, doesn't even sound right coming out of my mouth. And I used to say that. That's crazy. Why did I
Mhm.
say that? That's so weird.
Right.
So yeah, that's the most recent thing I've watched.
Man, thank you for sharing that. And I think as human beings, as we get closer to Christ, we start to level up, like with our emotions,
Yes.
with the
Yes.
way we have grace for other people,
Yep. Yep.
our acceptance,
Hmm.
in so many ways. So I love that you shared that. There is a show that I'm watching now that my kids have gotten me into, and it is called the Avatar,
The
the
Last
Last
Airbender.
Airbender. Yeah.
Oh, I have the DVD set. That's how good it is. I bought the
So
DVD set personally.
I'm on season one, episode 12
Ah,
right now. So
so
when
they're
you
in the
come to
water
my
tribe, right?
house, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So he's still trying to make his way to the North Pole, to help her learn about water benders. Who's it? Was it Shara? Shaka?
Katara.
Katara.
Yep.
Katara.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I'm learning a whole host of things watching that show. It is really good. It's really
Oh,
good.
it's phenomenal.
There's a couple of grown men that are my customers, that I deal with, in the government, and they kind of ask me, "Hey, how's it going? You know, where you at right now?" So
Uh-huh.
there's like a whole clique of grown folks that's following on to it. So
Absolutely.
the book I'm reading, I always share what I'm reading or what I'm into right now. I was just on a 8 day, 7 night cruise, um, down in the Gulf of Mexico, and
Come
so
on.
I had a couple of books with me. I just finished the pack. The pack is three young black
Oh, yeah,
men.
they become doctors, right?
Yeah, they all become
Yes, yes.
doctors.
I know that
Yeah,
book. I have that somewhere in my library. Yes, I've read that
yep,
in years. Okay.
yep. I finally finished that one, and then I
Oh, nice.
started reading The Spirit of Fatherhood, and it talks a lot about the importance of fatherhood,
Mm.
and it talks about the different pointers of what it's like to deal with children who don't have fathers in their life, but how
Yeah.
you can be
Wow.
that big uncle or that father figure.
Oh,
And it
wow.
also talks about the role that you play as being a father to your own child and the influence that it lays on to other people.
Mm.
And it was fun because my youngest son Cameron, he came and sat down on the beach chair next to me, and I guess he got bored doing whatever he was doing on the cruise ship. They have a little teenage section, and sometimes they shut down during the middle of the day, and so you could just go to the pool or do whatever, right? It's an 18 deck huge ship that
Wow.
holds like 4,000 people. So a lot
Wow.
of stuff going on. But he came and found me and sat next to me, and they had these 10 pointers that I was just reading in the book, and I kind of passed it to him. I was like, "Hey man, what's the most important thing out of these 10 things that they say that you feel is beneficial?" And he looks through it and he reads all of them because they all have like a paragraph each. And he was like, "The one where fathers teach lessons to their kids to become men." And I was like,
Wow.
"Okay, okay,
Wow.
yeah, yeah." And so we kind of sat down and talked a little bit about it and pontificated. And I was like, "So how would you do it? What do you think should be, taught? What are the things you think shouldn't be taught? And
Wow.
kids should learn on their own and experience on their own." And he had answers. He had answers. And so
Wow.
that's the book I'm on. I'm about a third through it. I'm gonna
Okay.
try to finish it before summer. I'm gonna
Okay.
try.
Okay. Okay.
We'll try to finish it before summer. So people, when you see this, get out there on whatever platform you listen to the show. If you see me in the streets, you can ask me and say, "Where am I at?"
And he don't know immediately what you're saying.
No doubt. All right, my man, Johny Locus. Man, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate you greatly. I'll give you the last word.
Man, guys, I hope you took something from this. I hope that this inspires you to give. Giving is important. Even if you are right now in a selfish place of giving, like, let me just go give, watch your heart change. Um, that is just something I recommend. It's such a selfless act that there's no way you can think about yourself when you get there. Wherever you do, even if it's just an hour at a soup kitchen, give. It is a selfless act that'll change your heart, and I just hope and pray that that is something that inspires you.
Amen, man. Thank you, my brother.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.